President Moon has he appeared to look rather reserved following Pyongyang and Washington's escalating rhetoric, and for some it was seen as Moon's determination not to be swayed by Trump and Kim's war of words, while he also faced criticism for not doing enough to protect the public. As he did today in his meeting with his top aides, he's also expected to address North Korea in his Liberation Day speech tomorrow, emphasizing a peaceful resolution to these escalations.
It seems like he has been on a very steep learning curve that South Korea's political capital to be an effective mediator or honest broker between North Korea and other countries, especially the United States, is quite limited. But at the same time, he will emphasize some hopeful possibilities. That should be the foundation of future policy of Moon Jae-in government toward North Korea.
The previous administration, a number of people are speaking out, prominent names and faces that we all know from the last administration, talking about how this is not healthy, this rhetoric's not helpful, but also expressing some surprise at how advanced the North Korean program appears to be. Well, here is current CIA Director Mike Pompeo on that surprise issue.
The intelligence community has done remarkable work to deliver to policymakers the progress that the North Korean regime has been making. But it doesn't surprise me that folks who came before me now act surprised. They did nothing.
So he says they shouldn't be surprised that we're now where we think we are with a nuclear warhead being able to be equipped to an ICBM pointed at the U.S. mainland.
I think it's fair for Director Pompeo to point out that the intelligence community and the policymaking community in Washington knew about these advances. That is true. I don't think it's fair of him to say that these previous administrations, quote, did nothing, as he said. I think that that's a bridge too far. And I think that it's incumbent upon him as the CIA director in this situation to not criticize, to not go political and go in this direction. I don't know why he decided to do this on this interview, but it seems to be consistent across the administration right now that they want to really point out to the American people that the situation we're facing now is not their fault. And I think that's besides the point. And I think what the American people really care about is going forward, what are we doing? What is the plan? What are you planning to do, Mr. President? And that should have been the focus of the interview rather than this blame game.
Staying with stories related to the rogue regime's threats, top U.S. officials reassured a nervous American public that a military confrontation with North Korea is not imminent. But according to our Yoo Jin-hee, while insisting a diplomatic solution is possible, they are standing firmly behind President Trump's over-the-top statements against the regime.
Washington's National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster said on Sunday the U.S. is not on the brink of war with North Korea, although the possibility of conflict is greater than it was a decade ago. He said the U.S. is taking all possible actions to defuse tensions on the Korean peninsula without resorting to military action. However, he stressed the U.S. military is locked and loaded in case it needs to be called into action, echoing the same sentiment used last week by President Trump. Trump traded barbs with Pyongyang all throughout last week, saying the regime would face fire and fury if it continued to issue more violent threats against Washington. CIA Director Mike Pompeo also played down the prospect of war, describing Kim Jong-un as rational who was responsive to adverse circumstances. He did express alarm, however, at North Korea's rapid progress in its development of nuclear warheads small enough to be mounted on its long-range missiles. Despite some reassurances, experts fear the regime may be on the verge of breaching the Trump administration's red line that would force Washington to take action. This amid concerns that the president's fiery rhetoric last week may have worsened an already volatile situation between the U.S. and North Korea. Yoo Jin-hee?
I think we're not closer to war than a week ago, but we are closer to war than we were a decade ago. And this has been a problem that we've procrastinated on for a long period of time. And now it's coming to a head where the threat from North Korea, not only to the United States, but to the world, is very, very clear.
Well, people are worried. Google searches in the US for how to survive a nuclear attack are out-trending the old classics like how to get rich and how to be happy. And the media certainly couldn't be accused of trying to downplay the issue.
People begin weighing their disaster plans.
A nuclear warhead could land in Hawaii in 20 minutes.
This is an existential threat to the United States.
Additional information on radiation from a potential nuclear blast.
So where does that actually leave us? Well, only a few days into Trump's verbal spat with Kim Jong-un, a survey showed almost 80% of Americans believe North Korea is capable of launching a missile that could hit the U.S. And that's despite many experts saying Pyongyang's weapons are not sophisticated enough to achieve that. CIA Director Mike Pompeo believes there's no immediate need to be concerned.
So how worried should people be? There's nothing imminent. What I'm talking about is I've heard folks talking about we being on the cusp of a nuclear war. I've seen no intelligence that would indicate that we're in that place today.
John Lonsky is here, Moody's chief capital markets economist. Big guy, important guy, aren't you?
Well,
yes,
I hope
you
so.
are. Tom, okay.
Otherwise.
We don't cover foreign economies much on this program. Why is 4% growth in Japan important?
Well, why it's important for us is because one of the reasons why we expect the economy in the United States to grow by only 2% over the next 10 years is because of unprecedented demographic change, the aging of the U.S. economy.
Really? Wait. That's one of the reasons why we're only going to get
the primary reason,
right?
The labor force growing by only 1/2 of 1%.
That's
too many
reason?
old people and not enough young people.
Wait a minute. Japan has the most extreme demographics of anybody.
That's the point. We look at the United States, we call it Japan light. Japan was supposed to grow by only 2% this quarter. Instead, it grows by 4% for the entire year. The experts are looking for only 1.3% growth. What a big surprise. Better yet, the Japanese economy grew by 4% despite the fact that exports shrank in the latest quarter. And we think of Japan as being an export-powered economy. What's going on? Consumer spending grew, I think, in excess of 3%. Real business investment spending took off. And infrastructure spending, government spending was up by 20%.
The news there is that Japanese people are spending money again. Think about it, though.
After 25 years almost.
After 25 years, they have a tremendously high savings rate, so they have a lot of money to spend, I would imagine.
So the whole world is fired up. Maybe the world is growing. That's good news for us. Is that it?
Definitely. Yes. We're seeing higher base metals prices. That's an indication of faster world economic growth.
We're real fast. North Korea, no rockets fired, no shots fired. No, I'm not going to say calming down by any means, but that is good news for the market, isn't
it? Yeah.
No war.
Yeah, perhaps diplomacy will prevail. And so that's what the market's thinking. So we could fully recover and more so this week from last week's sell-off.
President Moon Jae-in held talks with the chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff. The visiting general, having already met with Seoul's JCS chair and defense chief, reaffirmed Washington's defensive commitment to South Korea. Hwang Ho-jun has our top story.
President Moon welcomed General Dunford to Korea and thanked him for his father's service as a U.S. Marine in the Korean War. He then told the general that Pyongyang's accelerating nuclear and missile capability is a serious and real threat to the security of the Korean peninsula and the region. According to the Blue House, General Dunford emphasized that the mission of U.S. forces is to support Washington's efforts to diplomatically and economically pressure Pyongyang to denuclearize, and that the military option is just in case those efforts fail.
General Dunford reasserted that the actions and measures of the U.S. will be closely discussed with South Korea as allies and that everyone is expecting the current situation to be resolved without war.
Defense Minister Song Yong-moo and JCS Chairman Lee Sun-jin also met on Monday with General Dunford and got a reaffirmation of America's commitment to defend South Korea. President Moon, in a meeting with his top aides earlier in the day, urged North Korea to immediately stop its provocations and urged that under all circumstances, the North Korea nuclear and missile issues be resolved peacefully.
정부의 원칙은 확고합니다. 대한민국의 국익이 최우선입니다. 대한민국의 국익은 평화입니다. 한반도에서 두 번 다시 전쟁은 안 됩니다.
His remarks come amid tensions escalated in recent days by belligerent rhetoric exchanged by Pyongyang and Washington. That rhetoric included a threat from North Korea to strike near the U.S. territory of Guam using 4 of its missiles, and President Trump shooting back that the U.S. military is, quote, locked and loaded for North Korea in case it acts unwisely. President Moon's
Obviously, Netflix is one of the stocks to watch today. That Shonda Rhimes news is big news. But overall, when it comes to technology, you know, that rally had kind of been under pressure. Now we're wondering if the tech sector in general is going to get back on track. That may include Netflix. Just bring in Lou Bassanese, founder and chief analyst with Disruptive Tech Research. And that's, you know, the question. I mean, you've had the NASDAQ down 3 weeks in a row. That's the worst streak we've had in a year. But it seems like maybe we're going to have a bounce back today.
Cheryl, I feel like last time we were on here, we were talking about a pullback in the NASDAQ. Again, at that time I said it was a bump in the road. I think we're going to see the same thing. It's all systems go coming off of the second quarter earnings report. I mean, every one of the FANG stocks, which have been the bellwethers of the market for the NASDAQ here, put up solid results, and Apple and Netflix really were the big surprises. I mean, they absolutely torched expectations, and you saw both of their stocks rally as a result to new all-time highs. So I think the leadership is well intact. And we probably need to prepare. I mean, there's a bold prediction for the first trillion-dollar company. So that means Apple at 200 or Amazon at 2,000.
Right. What do you make about the Netflix news that Lauren just brought to us? I think that's pretty interesting, this battle that's really heating up between Disney and Netflix. A lot of our viewers own these stocks. What do you say?
Yeah, look, real estate's all about location, location, location. Netflix in the streaming world, it's all about content, content, content. And they continue to bolster that. You know, the bears will argue that they're spending too much on content. I would argue that's what drives their business. So they're going to spend on what's going to bring in the future sales. They are the dominant player in this space. No one's coming close to them. You know, Disney's going to try their hand at that. You know, Blockbuster tried their hand long ago, and look what happened. Yeah. So I don't see them happening.
It's a new world, though, we got to say. Hey, real quick, just on the general markets, we're looking at Asian markets, Europe, now U.S., all higher. Part of this is the rhetoric seems to be dialing down a little bit between the U.S., North Korea. It takes Secretary of State Rex Tillerson coming out and saying that, you know, there's going to be some conversations here. Do you think that kind of takes away that geopolitical risk for the markets this morning?
I think it does. The Korea angst is subsiding right when we have some key economic reports coming up. Wednesday, Fed meetings come out. We have retail sales and a lot of retailers reporting results. So I think the stage is set to move the political tensions to the side and really start focusing on the fundamentals.
Right. And real quick, just before I let you go, you know, sure. Obviously, with regards to that and our relationship with China, these trade agreements, there's some that have said on the technology side they're worried about if we do get into more of a tense standoff with China over North Korea, that's going to hurt some of the chip makers, that's going to hurt the supply chain. Are you worried about that?
Not long term, because I think, you know, those political tensions are going to be resolved eventually, and is really a month or two a delay going to deter the growth that's happening in the smartphone boom, in you know, the smart speaker device boom, AR, VR? No, those are long-term trends that are going to persist. So anything's going to be a buying opportunity, and I would consider it.
Well, you know, as you watch, you know, your Apples and your other chips, I don't know, it's going to be an interesting little argument we're going to have trade-wise. Anyway, Lou, thank you.
Louder than words. That's the subject of tonight's Waters Words. North Korea using nuclear blackmail to threaten America. How did we get here? President Bush and President Obama failed to prevent North Korea from achieving its nuclear ambitions. And Bill Clinton, in 1994, gave the North Koreans $4 billion oil and helped them build 2 light-water nuclear reactors. Here's what he said at the time.
This is a good deal for the United States. North Korea will freeze and then dismantle its nuclear program. The entire world will be safer as we slow the spread of nuclear weapons.
Obviously, past presidents have failed us. North Korea recently test-fired a missile that we believe can hit the continental United States, and recent intelligence shows that they have miniaturized a warhead that can be placed in an intercontinental ballistic missile. The regime still has not yet shown the ability to accurately aim the missile and have it achieve re-entry into the atmosphere from space. But we believe they are very close. Enter Donald Trump.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire, fury, and frankly power, the likes of which this world has never seen before.
Well, all hell broke loose in the mainstream media after that statement.
President Trump sounds more like a North Korean leader, unfortunately, than an American leader.
This is the first time
that the dangerous apocalyptic statements of the North Korean regime have been met by dangerous apocalyptic statements by the President of the United States.
We have never heard this kind of bluster from an American president to another world leader.
In all talk and no action, Democrats who've done nothing while North Korea has nuked up over the decades called the President of the United States the warmonger. Betty McCollum tweeting, North Korea is a global threat that requires American diplomacy. Donald Trump's threat of fire and fury is dangerous and risks war. Rep. Kathleen Rice added, this sounds more like a statement from the supreme leader of North Korea than from the President of the United States. And Rep. Ted Lieu said reckless for the President to make provocative statements about North Korea and back us into a corner. We need de-escalation, not a miscalculation. But it wasn't just Democrats. Senator John McCain had this to say.
I'm very concerned about the level of rhetoric that President Trump employed.
With all due respect, Senator, we have to be careful. Were you careful when you said this?
That old Beach Boys song, Bomberan, you know, bomb, 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 bomb. Anyway.
Now, Senator, I know you were joking, but really? So the swamp thinks President Trump is a greater threat than a nuclear North Korea. The Trump derangement syndrome has prevented them from realizing the obvious. North Korea nuked up while Washington whispered fluffy diplomatic words. Kim Jong-un threatened to wipe out California, and Donald Trump's strong warning is dangerous? Come on. This is how Democrats fight ISIS, too. Don't call them radical Islamic terrorists. We might be provoking them. Or when after 9/11, Bush called North Korea, Iran, and Iraq the axis of evil, the Democrats said Bush was out of line. Bottom line, Democrats are more concerned about Republicans' words than our enemies' actions.